Well, good afternoon to you. It is 4:06 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. And as always, we've got a lot of it. Kyle Seraphin will be here at 5 o'clock, the former FBI agent, host of the Kyle Seraphin podcast. I'm going to talk to him about the way that the left is coming after your rights. As that's what the great Chris Plant says, the left, they're coming for your rights. And then Matt Rosendale will be here, the congressman, at 5:30. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The left is constantly trying to induce the latest moral panic designed to give them more power. But the American public has had enough of that crap. And in fact, doesn't even fall for it anymore. Really. And the reason, in no small part, that we can get over the left's nonsense so quickly is that there are more and more brave Americans who step forward and go, I've had enough. I'm going to tell people what's really going on. And among those people is my next guest. Bobby Burack joins us now. He's a columnist over at OutKick, and he noticed something very stupid, very depraved this week, and he exposed it instantly, and now the subject of Bobby's story is receiving all the mockery he intended for someone else. Bobby, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, Vince, I appreciate it.
First of all, thank you for being a great American. Secondly, you wrote this week about, it starts with a young man at a Kansas City Chiefs game. He is, seems like a pretty enthusiastic football fan. So enthusiastic, he's wearing a Chiefs jersey. It looks like an Indian chief headdress, and he painted his face black and red, as you might do if you were celebrating a sports team. Tell us what happened next.
So for those of your listeners who don't go to football games, I don't know how many do and how many don't, it's very common for fans to paint their face with double paint with the colors of the sports teams. You're in D.C., so if you go to a Commanders game, you paint your face maroon and yellow. If you go to a Cowboys game, you paint your face blue and silver.
Although,
right?
let me add one note, Bobby. At a lot of these Commanders games, usually it's the visiting team's face paint that is predominant in the stadium.
True. So if you go to a Commanders game, they're playing the Eagles, you wear silver and green. I get that. So yeah, on Sunday, a Chiefs fan, I don't know how old he is, 5, 6, 7 years old, was seen with black face paint on one side, red face paint on the other, and a headdress to honor the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty standard among Chiefs fans. A lot of pictures online of fans doing just that. But Monday morning, a Deadspin writer named Caron Phillips, who I would say is like a dollar store Jamel Hill, he took a picture of that boy only showing the one side of his face, the black side, and accused him of wearing blackface and wrote an article saying the NFL needs to do something about this little boy because this little boy, and I quote, made it known that he hates both black people and Native Americans. So now we have Deadspin framing and smearing a 6-year-old boy maybe of wearing blackface and hating black people for wearing red and black face paint. And it's been over 24 hours. I've contacted the author and his editor, and Vince, they refuse not only to address their lie, but upload the full picture showing the boy not wearing blackface, but Chiefs face paint. How cruel is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the NFL licenses the use of, license these photos and videos, the things that have shown us all of this. You know, the NFL should ban this guy Caron Phillips from their stadiums for trying to depict a fan who was there enthusiastically supporting his team as some sort of, racist. Do you think the NFL will do that?
No, I don't, and this is what bothers me the most. So, obviously, what Caron Phillips did to this boy is evil and cruel, and it really puts the boy in some sort of danger. His face is plastered all over the internet, telling readers he hates black people and Indians. But, see, in most cases, the NFL and athletes would speak up and stand up for this little boy, but because of so much sensitivity around race, they're not saying anything. And that's what bothers me the most, right? If he accused this boy of something else, the NFL would push back, and the members of the Chiefs would push back, like Mahomes and Kelsey. But nobody wants to do what I did,
No.
and that is defend the boy against accusations of racism.
Totally.
And that's why you see people in the media today coming after me saying that I hate Mexicans, that I hate black people because I stood up for this boy. And by the way, I don't know what Mexicans have to do with this story, but I was also accused of that.
These people are morons. That's one of the findings here. I will say that this is such a perfect opportunity for the NFL to stand up and gain an enthusiastic, either revived or new fan base. Just straight up say, you know what? We're banning this Caron Phillips from the NFL. He can't attend any games, not after what he tried to do to our fans. The kid, they paid for the ticket. They got him in the stadium. It looks like a good seat. He's sitting right up against the field, it looks like. And he's got, got his headdress on. He's got his war paint on. He's supporting the Chiefs. And not only should they ban Caron Phillips, but they should let the kid on the field, let him hang with the players, give him the VIP experience. This is how it would normally be done. Because how old is this guy? I'm looking at the photos of him. He looks like he's 10 years old. He's just there kind of supporting the game. Like, take care of him. The NFL, don't you think that people would reward the NFL if they stood up in this way?
Absolutely. But I don't believe they will. And what's really disheartening here is, look, I just mentioned all the people coming after me. That's fine. I can defend myself. The athletes that Caron Phillips often calls a racist, they can defend themselves. But this little boy, he can't defend himself. He doesn't have a big platform. No one knows who his parents are. And that is the most wicked thing a journalist can do, that is attack people beneath them. That's why Clay Travis, who founded the website that I write for, he believes there's a case for the kid and his family. He talked about this today, to sue Deadspin for defamation, because he says that what's happening here is they intentionally misled their audience and harassed and defamed this little kid. And I spoke to a lawyer for my column today, and she said the same thing, that there's a strong case that Deadspin is liable for negligence, for lying and slandering this private citizen who happens to be under 10 years old. That's the only way that this boy can fight back, because nobody in the public other than a few media outlets have stood up for him.
I'm reminded of another story from just a couple weeks ago. We saw kind of the same thing take place over the course of like a day or two, where you had a middle school student who went to a football game and he was wearing eye black, but he was wearing it the way a lot of athletes do now, which is not only the eye black, not just under his eyes, but kind of stretched down to the bottom of his cheeks. He was being accused of wearing blackface, and he was suspended by his middle school for that, when, again, he was doing exactly what his favorite athletes all do, of every skin color.
Yeah, and this Caron Phillips, a year ago during a Little League World Series celebration, the kids, I don't know if they sprayed like whipped cream on the hairs of their players at a celebration. He used one photo and said the team was putting cotton on the black player as a sign of racism. That wasn't true. Every player on the team had the white fuzz on there. This was not a black kid wearing cotton and the team laughing at him. That was a lie. This guy, to me, what he says is so irresponsible. He, after George Floyd's death, he wrote an article saying that white people who watch professional sports are exercising white supremacy because their white brothers are on the streets killing black people, and they get to go watch black athletes. That's a real article he wrote.
Okay. Well, I'm really grateful to you for taking a dunce cap and putting it on his head and putting him in the corner this week.
What's that you cut out there?
Oh, you hear me now?
Oh yeah, your phone cut out.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, we're with Bobby Burack of OutKick. I'm grateful that you put a dunce cap on Caron Phillips's head this week, because boy, he deserves it. Now, I've noticed what he's doing now is he's blocking everyone on the internet for realizing that he's the ghoul in this story and not a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, and he used the Mexican reference to other people. He said, if you disagree with him, you're the same type of person who hates Mexicans but wears a sombrero. Again, I don't know what that means, and I followed up and asked him, but he didn't answer. Yeah, he is saying that everybody else is insane, not him, for really trying to ruin this little kid's life. I think it's one of the more despicable pieces I've seen Deadspin. Right now, look, this is the outlet that obsessed over Jason Whitlock for years, pretty much forced ESPN to get rid of him. They've been doing stuff like this for a long time. They're the ones that went after Sage Steele and said that she's actually a white woman masked as a black woman. But again, to my knowledge, they've never gone after a 10-year-old little boy before. So that just shows you how far they've fallen and where they didn't start at a very high point. It's
disgusting. All right, let's pull the lens back for a moment. What I'm noticing here is how quickly, because you jumped on this and said, this is garbage. What you're doing to this child is absolute trash. And you exposed this guy quickly. And thankfully, Bobby, you know, so many of us were made aware of this story, and instantly you can put this thing to bed. But it wasn't like this a couple years ago. I mean, it used to be that the half-life on these stories was a lot longer. You know, you look at a guy like what happened with Nick Sandmann, a guy who was at the who came to Washington, D.C., who was depicted as some sort of racist because some lunatic was banging a drum in his face and he didn't make any facial expressions. So he said the media depicted him as a racist in that scenario. It turns out, as you see more and more of the video footage, you're like, he's not racist at all. He's just a kid standing at the Lincoln Memorial with some lunatic in his face. And meanwhile, you know, the same kind of saga played out with Kyle Rittenhouse. We saw that. Like, there was no way it was self-defense. In the trial, there was a verdict. The jury came and said, yeah, it was 100% self-defense. And you see all these stories, it does feel like that the left's ability to conjure up these bogus race hoaxes, like, you know, like Jussie Smollett, it's going away really fast. I think people are sick of this, and they can sense a hoax coming a million miles away.
Yeah, and about a month ago, this website called Pink News, I guess they're like a LGBT website. I don't know what they are, but there was a bomb threat at a high school that thankfully wasn't real. And they wrote an article blaming me and Riley Gaines for the bomb threat, saying that we radicalized the person to want to bomb trans people. I mean, there was no evidence of that we were responsible for, but they wrote it anyway. So there's no accountability in the press unless you sue them and bring a lawsuit. That's why so many people, including Elon Musk, seem to be encouraging this family to take action against Deadspin, because if you don't, they'll continue to do this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The left likes to wield the phrase. They say it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. Okay, fine. There are consequences to your actions. If you're ready for them, here they come. Here they come. So, you know, we'll see.
I mean, there's just right. And there's just so many examples of this, too. Like, so many articles you read of people who are accused of racism and bigotry. There's really no evidence of it. You just saw it happen a couple weeks ago. The libs of TikTok got blamed for somebody beating up a trans person. That is such reckless journalism, to attribute a crime to somebody else in media based on you not agreeing with their opinion. I mean, somebody obviously needs to step in. And look, Sandman did it. Kyle Rittenhouse, I believe, is still suing some of those outlets, and hopefully he wins, because Sandman did. I think it did send a message, but maybe not one quite loud enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, Bobby Burack, thank you for being on the side of decency always, and really appreciate your coverage of all of this. Thank you, Bobby. Good to talk to you today.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.
Bobby Burack over at OutKick with, again, great work. Just instantly seeing this story and saying they're slandering a kid. I can see what's happening. And if it wasn't for Bobby, hopefully somebody else would have picked it up, but Bobby did, and luckily did it fast because he intercepted the feeding frenzy that would have probably destroyed this kid's life. I don't even really know. I mean, think about if it was you, if it was your child, 10 years old. Again, we're assuming, just looking at the kid, what age he might be. I haven't seen his name pop up anywhere, thank God. But I'm sure the left is on the move for that particular thing. They'd like to dox this child. But just imagine that being your search history for the rest of your life, that you were associated with some sort of blackface scandal. I mean, unless you were a Democrat governor of Virginia, you're not getting away with that. But there are ways out. It turns out being a Democrat could save you. Right, Ralph Northam? It's 421. Yeah. So, as I was explaining, I'm going to go, with Bobby. We were talking to Bobby Burack at OutKick. Like, the left, they're losing. They've devalued their currency. They can't do it anymore. They're like, that guy's a racist, and nobody believes him. Well, yeah, I'm going to wait for the evidence on that one. The evidence comes out within minutes. People are like, oh, so you're lying again. You're lying again. And so more and more people are waking up to this, and thank God for that. That is one of the nice things. You did see there this morning, there was a Black Lives Matter guy who was on Fox News. They were saying he's one of the founders of Black Lives Matter. At least he had to be one of the key organizers, I guess, to be considered a founder. And he's saying he's on Team Trump now. His name's Mark Fisher. He's like, I can't take these Democrats.
I think personally, it's the duplicity of the Democrats, the hypocrisy. We're not stupid. The brothers are not stupid. We understand when someone's for us and when someone is not. And it's obvious that the Democratic Party is not for us. Their policies actually strike at the heart of the black family and the nuclear family.
This sounds like a guy who didn't steal the money to buy a mansion. Like somebody who actually believed that there was a real mission behind, quote, Black Lives Matter. Here's what he had to say about Trump.
A lot of people are misinformed. They don't really understand because they don't educate themselves on Donald Trump as a person and his history. But if they do that, and it's going to take, leaders, educated leaders, getting the word out there, I think that it'll happen on its own and it'll be organic because personally, I love the man. I mean, how could you not like if a real man? How could you not relate to someone like that?
I get the feeling this is not one of the guys who's sketching out Hamas terrorists and treating them as the heroes in Israel. I guess he really didn't know what he signed up for when he was a part of that crazy group. Now saying, yeah, Democrats have not been good for black people. Have you seen America lately? Not good. Actually, more on that coming up. There's a congressional hearing this week, and an expert on guns, I'm in air quotes on that one, is out there saying that it's the Republican states you have to be the most worried about. That's where all the homicides are. We'll break down that ridiculous claim in a moment. Hey, good afternoon to you. 4:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL. Where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, top of the hour, Kyle Seraphin, FBI whistleblower, former FBI agent, host of the Kyle Seraphin podcast, will be with us. As Democrats have been using the TSA, have you encountered them lately? To limit the free travel of innocent American citizens. How nice of them. And then Matt Rosendale, the congressman, is here at 5:30. You can join us today. 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We'd be grateful to have your contributions today. We've got another Senate hearing this week. John Kennedy, just being John Kennedy, which is the best. He's great. And they've got a woman in front of him who claims to be an expert of some kind on guns. And so John Kennedy, and of course this is like a lefty person. This is a lefty person out in front of him. And he decides to ask about Chicago and say, hey, wait a second. Why is Chicago such a hellhole for gun deaths? Like, why are so many people dying in Chicago? Which is a reasonable question to ask. If you were trying to devise a public policy designed to end gun death, you might take a close look at Chicago, where they have the most murders, the most gun homicides in the entire country. The most gun homicides in the entire country in Chicago. So it's a reasonable question. Here's the exchange. Now, the left is sharing this today. They're very giddy about this. They think this is hilarious. That they think John Kennedy got absolutely dunked on, owned in this exchange. Take a listen.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think that Chicago has become America's largest outdoor shooting range?
So that's the question. That's Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. The respondent, the witness, is a Dr. Megan Ranney from the Yale School of Public Health. She's from Yale. She's the expert. She's a lefty.
Do you think it's because of Chicago citizens who have no criminal record, but who have lawfully a gun in their home for protection or perhaps for hunting? Or do you think it's because of a finite group of criminals who have rap sheets as long as King Kong's arm.
He's right about that. The majority of homicides in the United States are committed by a very small group of people. Very small group of people. But it is out of control all across the country, and certainly in Democrat-run cities like Chicago.
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri actually have higher firearm death rates. Obviously, there's certain...
What about Chicago?
So I don't live in Chicago. It's not my primary area of research.
Okay, so let me pause on this for a moment. So you noticed the retort. It didn't actually address Chicago at all. This is why he tried to get her back on focus. Talk about Chicago, what's happening in Chicago. But notice what she said. Now, if she was a real deal expert on saving human lives and making public policy recommendations that were designed to do that, then she would actually talk about the data. She would take the question seriously. She'd assess it. She'd try and figure out what's going on in Chicago. That's not what she's doing here. Instead, she picked 3 states. And what are those states? Are those red states or are they blue states? Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri. They're red states at the state level. They're considered red states. They're Trump voting states. Red states. So she says, well, Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri have higher firearm death rates. Now, notice the statistical problem here already. 1, she's comparing an entire states to the city of Chicago. That's her first piece of sleight of hand. But the second, and I think the most important element here, is she is once again, she's now lumping in Democrat-controlled cities and their out-of-control crime rates and making them a Republican problem. You see what she's doing here? I went and I looked up the homicide rates in each of these states, and what are their biggest cities? What are the counties with the highest firearm death rates, homicide rates? And guess where they are? Guess what cities? Jackson, Mississippi is run by Democrats. Jackson, Mississippi is run by Democrats. That's the city with the most homicides per capita in the entire state. You ready for Louisiana? You probably can guess this one. New Orleans, Louisiana, has the highest homicide rate per capita in the entire state. Who runs New Orleans? Would that be Democrats or Republicans? Democrats. Oh, thank you. Excellent. So now Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri is the #1 place for homicides in Missouri. Per capita, you're the most likely to die in Kansas City out of everywhere else in Missouri. Who runs Kansas City? Democrats. Democrats, Democrats, Democrats. So what she's doing is taking these red states that have murder problems in Democrat-run cities and then imposing those Democrat murder problems on Republicans and saying, don't you look at Chicago, those red states got real problems. Yeah, the problems they have are Democrats. That's the problem. The through line in this whole story are Democrat areas have a lot more murders. In fact, John Lott, who studies this for a living, he was posting earlier today in reaction to this audio cut some of the numbers through the years. And it turns out per capita, Democrat counties, that would be Biden voting counties, have about twice the homicide rate of Trump voting counties across the entire United States. Twice the homicide rate. If your county voted for Biden, buy a bulletproof vest. Get a gun if you can. Protect your family if you live in a county that voted for Biden. Because your chance of being murdered is twice as high as a county that voted for Trump. That's just true. That's just true. So here you have this woman who is from the Yale School of Public Health. She is not any sort of meaningful, objective expert trying to give deliver some sort of policy prescription that balances liberty with the need for security and figures out a way to save lives. It's nothing like that. She's a left-wing hack. Her first answer when asked about Chicago, the place with the most murders, now not per capita, but given the size of Chicago, the population density, and there's certain areas of Chicago, the south side of Chicago, you have to drill down there, and the per capita murders are off the charts. They're higher than third world countries. But the left tries to duck out of this. They're like, oh, well, what about Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri? Okay, you want to drill down there? Those are Democrat-run cities you're talking about. Are you tired of this game? You tired of playing the statistics game with us?
It's because of a finite group of criminals who have rap sheets as long as King Kong's arm.
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri actually have higher firearm death rates. Obviously, there's certain...
What about Chicago?
So I don't live in Chicago. It's not my primary area of research.
You don't have an opinion on that?
I think
What are you looking into then? Why exactly are you an expert on this subject if Chicago is not inside the target here? Like, she's testifying on firearm death rates, and she's like, I haven't looked at Chicago? What? That'd be like trying to study illegal immigration and not looking at the border. She's the Kamala Harris of Yale Law School experts.
there's easy access to firearms combined with environmental conditions, lack of great education. There have actually been studies showing that when you green vacant lots and repair abandoned buildings in urban neighborhoods.
Did you notice that she doesn't study Chicago, yet she has a bunch of excuses ready to go on why Chicago has such a high crime rate? She's like, well, Chicago's not really my primary area of focus, but allow me to offer the following 7 excuses.
Firearms combined with environmental conditions, lack of great education. There have actually been studies showing that when you green vacant lots and repair abandoned buildings in urban neighborhoods.
Oh my goodness. If you green vacant lots, then what happens?
You see decreases in gunshots, in violence, as well as in stress and depression in the neighborhood.
So if you grow a tree, homicides go down. Are you taking this seriously? Come on. What is that? What does growing a tree have to do with fatherless children? What does that have to do with that? What does growing a tree have to do with that? Nothing. What does growing a tree have to do with all the small businesses in a community being chased out by the violence and the looting? Nothing. I mean, what a scam. So she backs up into climate change. She's like, well, if we green the parking lot, then maybe we can decrease the murders? Sure, honey. Why don't you move into that community and grow a couple trees and let us know how it goes?
In urban neighborhoods, you see decreases in gunshots, in violence, as well as in stress and depression in the neighborhoods around them.
No disrespect, Doc, but that sounds a lot like word salad to me.
I mean, it's got green. So I guess it is word salad. It's very stupid is what it is. So would you believe that the clip I just played for you, the left is sharing today, like it's like the greatest thing ever? Oh, yeah, she got him. She said, Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri, he was owned. And they're not actually interested in saving human lives. They're not interested in digging into the data. They don't care at all that these are Democrat cities that are driving up the murder rates in those particular states. None of it. None of it. That's the last thing on their mind. The last thing. And so John Kennedy, once again, with some very basic questioning, exposes the insanity of the left here. So again, the real hero of that clip is John Kennedy for asking the question, and the real dullard is Dr. Megan Ranney. Doctor. Everyone's a doctor. She's Dr. Megan Ranney, a leftist, somebody who's fully devoted to the advancement of the Democrat Party and not to public health. That's the name of the institution she works for. The Yale School of Public Health. No evidence of that whatsoever. Let's take a phone call. We've got Jim calling in from Chicago, line 2. Jim, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, Vince.
Hey, sir.
Sorry, my son's just walking in, so the dogs are barking.
It's all good.
I had to walk outside. Hey, we need to look at the municipal level. The county is great, but let's look at the municipal level. Because I'll guarantee you that the murder rate is not only twice as much, it's probably 8 times or greater as much at the municipal level and in certain municipalities, and I guarantee you that all of them are Democrat run.
Right. Okay? So you're Jim, you're from Chicago, and there are areas of Chicago that are a lot safer than others. And but there are definitely some very dangerous areas, aren't there?
There's very safe areas outside of Chicago that are in Cook County.
Uh-huh.
Okay, say you're in Cook County, and Chicago's in Cook County. But and there's safer municipalities within Cook County than others. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, and see which ones are leaning more red and which ones lean more blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so you got to look even closer. I know the county thing is a great thing, but counties can vary. I mean, we have Will County here outside of Chicago, and Joliet, the municipality of Joliet, I guarantee you has a huge higher death rate than another municipality than the city of the town of Lockport.
Yes,
which shares in Will County. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, and it's amazing. Jim, one of the features of this story, and we see it all the time in so many of the ways that these lefties try and deceive you, which is they have fun with these statistics. They try and so they'll lump in a bunch of red areas to suggest that Democrat-run city, it's much safer than people claim. These Republicans are lying to. And then what they do is they lump in the Republican areas when it's useful to them to suggest that the city's much safer than Republicans are even claiming. So like Chicago, like you're talking about, Cook County. The other piece is that, like, if you were to look up, like right now, if you were to try and just search on any of the popular search engines for what city has the most gun deaths, it is actually hard to find the totals, because a lot of these news outlets will drill it down to a per capita level, specifically to avoid mentioning that Chicago has the most people dying due to gun homicide in the entire country. They go out of their way to try and forgive the number of people who are dying every day in Chicago, and it's insanity. So your point is well taken, Jim. If you drill down, you can do it block by block in Chicago and discover that you're looking at countries that are far more dangerous, blocks that are far more dangerous than many third world countries.
I'm thinking I need to write a book on it. Actually, I should research it to the extent that I could publish something, because the information is out there, and someone needs to expose it.
Yeah, amen. Jim, thank you. Yeah, the more people out there telling the truth, the better. And Jim, I'm grateful for your call. That's an excellent point. Let's see here. Scott in Leonardtown is calling in on line 1. Scott, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, I spent a year in New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale is, and the locals got a name for it. It's called Gun Waving New Haven. And she should know, since she lives there, that there are a lot of there's a ton of crime. I used to jog down the Quinnipiac River and see the local hooker hanging out with the cops, and it's like Chicago East.
Is it really that bad? I'm looking at some data here to confirm what you're saying. According to citydata.com, the crime rate in New Haven, Connecticut is 1.6 times higher than the national average, or 93% higher than other U.S. cities. So crime is meaningfully higher there, it turns out.
Oh yeah. Whenever I had, there were definitely streets that I avoided, and if I was accidentally on one of them or had discovered a new one, it was windows up, doors locked, eyes straight forward until you could get out of there.
And this will come as no surprise, but I just double checked to make sure. The mayor of New Haven, Connecticut, is a man called Justin Elliker. And anyone want to guess what party he's affiliated with? He's a Democrat.
I'd say Democrat. Yeah, they need to clean up their own house down there in New Haven before they start lecturing us.
I know. They've got all these things they'd like to share with us, all the stuff that they've learned. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate the phone call. All right, let's see here. It is 4:50. Yeah, fun with statistics. The left loves deceiving you. Oh, yeah, your unsafe community? Super safe. Your safe community? That's where all the violence is happening. Will you stop lying to us, please? Rick is in Manassas, line 3. Rick, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vincenzo. Buono notte.
How you doing, Rick?
Hey, here's what I said to your call screener. Great guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Figures lie and liars figure. These people that are writing these articles are getting most of their data from Google, Yahoo, Facebook, anybody that collects data, and they will lie about what they get and change those stats so that it leans in their favor. People need to get off of Google, honestly, and I'm somewhat addicted to it. Go to DuckDuckGo or look at some news source, but they've all been co-opted by liberals.
It is amazing, isn't it?
And they're owned by liberals.
Big time. And the censorship is immense. Even like we talk about Wikipedia, as goofy as that is, like, can you imagine, 20, 30 years ago, probably longer now because it's been around for practically 20 years, but 30 years ago, just looking around going, yeah, we're going to let people write an encyclopedia online. Who? Like anybody. They'll just write it. And then the world is going to rely on that as a knowledge base. What? That doesn't make any sense. And the left dominates that. And all of that data is fed to your smart speakers and all your devices. That's where it comes from.
So, Vince, if you go into Wikipedia today,
yeah,
and you look at the source data that they use to do sites. It's crazy.
It's
Not real.
totally crazy. In fact, if you really want to nerd out, there's a section on each page on Wikipedia called Talk. You just click Talk, and you can see the debate happening behind the scenes as like some normal person comes in and goes, hey, you guys are lying about this. And then they ban him. They delete everything he added to the page. It's the left. They're everywhere, especially on Wikipedia. Coming up, Kyle Seraphin is going to join us, former FBI agent. He's got some thoughts on the way the government is currently imperiling your rights, your civil liberties. And then Congressman Matt Rosendale will join us at 5:30. It's all ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show.